Summary of How to Manage Conflict. Turn all conflicts into win-win outcomes. By Peg Pickering. Fundamentals of conflict. Resolving conflict is never easy. But, since that skill can make or break both your personal and professional life, learning how to deal with confrontational situations and people is a necessary skill. Managing conflict requires these 5 key skills. 1. Understanding the core ingredients for collaborative thinking. 2. Aligning responsibilities to the needs of others. 3. Building the practices necessary for support into daily interactions. 4. Using conflict resolution and negotiation skills to resolve challenges. 5. Developing personal tools and systems for dealing with tension and pressure. Your ability to build these skills depends upon 4 factors. 1. Personal responsibility for your own learning and skill development. 2. Flexibility of style. 3. Ability to listen and give feedback. 4. A positive attitude toward change. While conflict doesn't necessarily contain hostility, that can become part of the situation. Conflict is simply the existence of competing or incompatible options. The potential for conflict multiples as we move into a more technologically advanced, rapidly changing world. Speedy change causes anxiety and confusion, and opens the door to conflict of all kinds. Conflict actually has a good side, believe it or not. The potential positive effects of conflict include increased motivation, improved identification of problems and solutions, group cohesiveness, reality adjustment, increased knowledge and skill, and enhanced creativity and incentives for growth. Your organization can't realize these benefits of conflict if the conflict is ignored or handled badly. Potential negative effects of conflict include decreased productivity, eroded trust, polarized coalitions, increased secrecy, reduced data flow, worsened morale, wasted time, and paralyzed decision-making. Types of conflict. Conflict within oneself can result in physical symptoms and stress disturbances. How you cope with internal conflict directly determines how you'll address interpersonal conflict, the conflict that occurs between people. Every human being has 4 basic psychological needs which, when violated, will automatically create conflict: the need to be valued and treated as an individual, to be in control, to have strong self-esteem, and to be consistent. Before focusing on conflict management, you must first understand 5 common misconceptions about conflict. 1. Conflict, if left alone, will take care of itself. 2. Confronting an issue or a person is always unpleasant. Many people would rather be shot than have a confrontation. But, confrontation doesn't have to be nasty. To confront actually means to face something, especially a challenge, to oppose something or to deal with something face-to-face, although you don't need to be literally in the other person's presence. Confronting an issue or a person means putting the items in question on the table to be addressed. Unfortunately, many people fear being direct or dealing with an unknown outcome. But a conflict can't be resolved successfully without putting things on the table. 3. The presence of conflict is the sign of a poor manager. The existence of conflict, in and of itself, really doesn't mean anything and doesn't reflect on a manager's ability. How well managers deal with conflicts as they arise and how well they diffuse future problems are the true measures of managerial skills. 4. Conflict among staff is a sign of low concern for the organization. Quite the contrary. People don't invest a lot of time and emotional energy, conflict requires both, on things that mean nothing to them. People become emotionally involved in matters they care about deeply. Thus, conflict is a sign of genuine concern. Conflict can actually help clarify emotions and serve to identify underlying values. 5. Anger is always negative and destructive. When released at lower stages of conflict, anger is cathartic and can help people identify issues to address. But, at higher levels of conflict, explosive anger has the opposite effect. Anger itself is neither positive nor negative, how people choose to use that anger is what counts. If conflict is dealt with early, it can provide an opportunity to learn instead of a dangerous event. Use a different management technique with each stages of conflict. Stage 1: Conflicts, everyday concerns and disputes. The least threatening and damaging of the stages, Stage 1 can be addressed effectively by using coping strategies. These conflicts are low intensity and manifest primarily as irritations. Left unchecked, however, they can easily mount up and escalate. Different personalities, coping mechanisms, and changing life events, which are Stage 1 variables, make it nearly impossible to predict when an individual has had enough. What was tolerable and manageable yesterday may become impossible tomorrow. Avoidance is a popular coping strategy for Stage 1 conflicts. Avoidance includes ignoring minor things instead of dealing with them and remaining silent rather than starting, or being drawn into a debate or disagreement. If you don't have a lot of contact with the person in question, then avoidance may be effective. The live and let live attitude may be all you need at this stage. But repeated irritations often create undercurrents that accumulate. Another Stage 1 coping mechanism is being obliging, simply giving in to the other person so things can move along. How long will an individual oblige? There's no way to predict that. Today's obliging can turn into tomorrow's intolerance. Stage 1 resolution strategies include calmly examining both sides to foster understanding. Analyzing the conflict to see if it is proportional to the situation. Identifying areas of agreement and working from them to identify points of disagreement, leading both parties to resolve the conflict by seeing it in the context of the big picture. Stage 2, significant challenge. These conflicts have longer-term consequences, more emotional involvement, and a win-lose attitude. Losses seem greater because people are far more personally and emotionally invested in the problem. At this point, self-interest, saving face, and a cover-yourself attitude also play important roles. At Stage 2, people keep track of verbal warfare and make note of mistakes, both perceived and actual. Witnesses take sides and keep score. Alliances form, and everyone feels that the stakes have grown. Therefore, working through the conflict requires a higher level of commitment than a Stage 1 nuisance would require. Simple coping strategies no longer work. Discussing the issue seems futile while those involved point fingers at each other. People resist attempts to address the actual issues and play the blame game instead. Although the atmosphere isn't necessarily hostile at Stage 2, it is perilous. Survival tactics include put-downs, sarcasm, and innuendo. The trust level plummets and accurate facts are hard to come by. Strategies for Stage 2 include creating a safe atmosphere to deal with the problem. Being hard on the facts and soft on the people. Working as a team and sharing the responsibility for finding a mutual solution. Looking for middle ground without suggesting compromise. Focusing on points of agreement. Allowing competing parties to take their time and not force the issue. Seating competitors next to each other, at a round table, not across from each other. Stage 3, overt battles. At Stage 3, the objective shifts dramatically from wanting to win to wanting to hurt. The motivation becomes getting rid of the other party. Solving problems, changing the situation, and reasoning are no longer effective. Intervention is required, using one of these strategies. Negotiation, two parties negotiate with the help of an outside agent. Mediation, each side gives its case. An intervention team facilitates a mutual solution. Arbitration, each side gives its case. An intervention team chooses one side. Step-by-step conflict management. Managers set the atmosphere for employees. Conflict can be dealt with effectively if managers have created a climate of trust, openness, and shared responsibility. Managers must have a healthy understanding of relationships to make the best decisions during conflict. Managers can follow a 6-step model to deal with conflict. The actions you should take as a manager are to listen, acknowledge, explain, seek alternatives, use assertive statements, and summarize the points. You can maintain positive relationships during conflict if you encourage equal participation and differentiate fact from opinion. Take time to step back, consider, and actively listen. Focus on the problem, not the people. Building cooperation hinges upon 9 steps. 1. Clearly define the problem. 2. Look for commonalities. 3. Respect all contributions, no matter how lame. 4. Recognize multiple interests. 5. Respect all individuals. 6. Look toward solutions. 7. Move from what's in it for me to what's in it for us. 8. Focus on benefits. 9. Allow time to evaluate and make decisions. Communication and rejection. Conflict is often caused by misconceptions, communication failures, jumping to the wrong conclusions and misunderstanding the other side's motivations. Only 7% of communication is actually transmitted verbally. The other 93% is nonverbal. Facial expression, body language, and tone of voice are everything in communication. Difficulties arise when people see everything the other party does in light of their incorrect preconceptions about motivation. People follow a predictable sequence of behavior as they attempt to deal with the emotional aspects of conflict. This emotional continuum, called the rejection response, moves from anxiety to acceptance, to internal inventory, and finally to balanced reflection. This sequence takes people from their initial reactions to the resolution of the conflict. During the escalation of conflict, emotional reflexes include blaming, secrecy, repressed feelings, and anger. These are all dealt with in the 4 phases of the emotional continuum.